I'll do. I've got another story here. This one fits in with the one that I did yesterday in regards to free speech. If you've not seen that one, please watch it. It's to do with the lady who's had a music career cancelled. It's quite a good video, that one. I go into quite some depth on my opinions and what I think of that situation and the importance of free speech. And I've seen this one today, and I think this is just as important. It's again free speech. This time it's to do with a teacher saying that LGBT, whatever, the whole alphabet plus an ampersand, all that other stuff is basically a sin. I do agree with her that it's not fine to teach it to kids. I'll explain my reasons in a bit. I've not read this full article. I've only read the header and the subheader immediately underneath it. So I do feel that I might disagree with her on the finer points of it. But irrespective of whether I agree with her or not, I fully support her right to freely speak her mind. Because in order to be able to think clearly, you've got to be able to speak freely. Because if you can't speak freely, you then can't formulate your ideas and actually say them. And I learned this through working on the railway and in engineering. Anybody who you may get it where you think, oh, I've got to do such a task. You go downstairs, get distracted for a second, and go, what was that thing I needed to do? It's because when something's in your brain, all you're doing is firing neurons, and that's it. But when you actually say something out, or if you write it down on paper, or same like if I was doing my checks on the train, or I'd point at things as I'd be walking around, I'd actually be touching parts of the train with my hand. I've looked at that, I've done that. I know it sounds stupid, but because you're actually activating muscles, it uses more of your brain matter, which then means you're firing even more neurons for that activity at hand. So the point I'm trying to say is, in order to be able to think clearly and understand your own thoughts, you need to be able to say them out freely, and that way you can then better assess your thoughts. Because you've actually said them, which is why it's good to talk to people about your ideas. Plus, people challenge you on your ideas. I mean, some of you on here might message me back saying, yeah, Dave, I don't agree with what you've just said for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then I'll get to read your responses and think about it. And I may do a video response in that, or bring those points in future. May not agree with them at that immediate time, but at least I'll have time to mull them over in my head. And that's through being able to speak freely. It's important. So anyway, that's out of the way. Please, I'll link the article below. Please visit the site. They get the advertiser revenue for us visiting their sites. I don't get anything for that. I'm not sponsored. I just think it's good courtesy to do so because we're using their material. So the least we can do is give them the advertiser traffic in return. So anyway, Christian teacher who told pupils LGBTQ plus is not fine was not acting against British values. No, I don't think she was. She's allowed to think that, and she's allowed to say it. That is a part of living in a free and democratic society. And people who don't like it, leave, get out of the country, go away, bye-bye. You won't be missed. Gladys Ledger was sacked from a Church of England school in South London after she called LGBTQ plus a sin. I mean, that's a shocking thing. Church of England, they have become so heretical in recent years. And people might say, oh, what's wrong with what they're doing? Well, for a start, and this may be controversial to some people, but having female priests is actually against the teachings of the Bible. So that in and of itself is heretical. Having transgender people is heretical because you're going against God's design on your body. You're denying what God has given. Now, an atheist or somebody who's secular or a different religion that may not be a big issue, but for a Christian, people have been created in God's direct image. That means you're a direct reflection of God, and your body is a temple. And that's not just a saying, that is actually your body is your temple. So for you to deny what you've been gifted by God in your form of life is to go against what God has intended for you and what God's vision is for his own embodiment on this planet, which is your body. That you are God's physical embodiment on the planet. So yes, it absolutely is going against God's teaching. And also sanctifying homosexual marriages as well, again, because it's not that the church is necessarily against homosexuality. Well, I mean, it is, but even putting that aside, well, no, acts of homosexuality, I should say, not homosexuality. Being homosexual in and of itself isn't necessarily bad, and it's just part of your things that you have to deal with. We all have our cross to bear, so to speak. And everybody, by the way, and that doesn't mean that engaging in them is necessarily the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. It just means that that's for you to discuss with God so to speak. But it's very clear on marriage is about one man and one woman, and it's not necessarily about the people, it's about the children and providing a stable home for the upbringing of children so they can then turn into decent adults. That's what marriage is about. And that is very explicit. So that is why I think the Church of England is incredibly heretical. A Christian teacher who told pupils that LGBTQ+ is not fine did not act against fundamental British values or regulators. Well, I agree with it. It's not fine, and not because, and I distinctly separate being homosexual from LGBT. LGBT is an ideology in the same way, and it's a political ideology. It's what I call rainbow communism, simply because LGBT ideology has actually got its roots in communism and the communist movement, and it's no mistake that you often find communists embedded within LGBT movements and vice versa. This goes right back to the 60s, when communist revolutionaries were trying to agitate across the West, and they failed miserably. Things like the Stonewall, and that was all motivated by communists. So that's not a conspiracy. That is a historical fact. That LGBT is it is literally rainbow communism. Like, that is not even and it should be, that should be highlighted more. I think a lot of news reporters are missing out on a big trick there when they're talking about pride parades and things, and that's why they've adopted the flag so much, and why they're so it's like a lot of these protests, like when you see Palestine protests and pride protests, things like that, all these trans protests, it's all the same people turning up. They're all the same. They're all communists in all of them. All they do is they just change the flags, they change the banners, change whatever clothes they're wearing, go to the new protest. All the same people, just communists, trying to bring about the revolution. It's all about trying to bring around the revolution any way, shape or form that they can do it. Gladys Ledger, 43, was sacked from Bishop's Justice Church of England School in Bromley, South London, after she expressed her beliefs on LGBT issues during a religious education lesson. Well, I mean, that's even more pertinent. So not only is she a Church of England school, but she was doing an RE lesson, and teaching it accurately, in my opinion. The school received a complaint from a parent after Miss Ledger told pupils that LGBTQ is not fine and LGBTQ+ is a sin. Well, according to the Bible, it is a sin. It really is. But that doesn't mean that you. This is where people don't understand the concept of sin. All humans are sinners, whether you believe in religion or not. We all sin. We don't mean to. Nobody's perfect. We are all infallible. And that is a part of life, and that is why Christianity is genius, in my opinion, as a religion, is because it has the concept of forgiveness within it. So long as you're acknowledging that what you've done is wrong, and you're trying to work towards it. We sin every day, and sometimes we repeat, we're aware that we sin. We're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like getting up late for work, snoozing your alarm every day, and it doesn't really gain you anything, but as a minor, it's being lazy, slovenly, or you're on your way home from work and you stop off at the petrol station and you're filling up, and then you start buying sweets or chocolates or whatever, and it starts becoming a regular habit where you're snacking all the time. You shouldn't be. You're being gluttonous. But these aren't the worst things. That you shouldn't be doing it, but you're aware that it's wrong when you're doing it, but you keep doing it. I do it. Everybody does it. It's not being sinful doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just it's an act. It's just a word for an act. A rather, an act that doesn't work in our favour necessarily. Miss Ledger also said that people will always be seen by God as having their birth changed. Well, that's true, because it's not just by God, but by me as well. I don't care how many operations you have. You are what you were born as. And that's not me being mean or rude. It's just, that's a fact. Just because there's no such thing, in my opinion, as a sex change. If you take a penis and you slice it up into a really poor facsimile of a vagina, it's not a vagina. It's a mutilated penis that's been reorganized to look like a vagina. You can take a digger if you want and rebuild it. Pull it apart and try and make it look like a dinosaur, but it's not a dinosaur. It's just a digger that's been pulled apart to look like a dinosaur. It's the same with the supposed sex change. There's no such thing. You can't change your sex. You are what you are. Unfortunate for those people. It must be awful if you really are gender dysphoric. And I imagine once you actually do get your change, they probably go, oh, but I still think the same. I'm still the same person. I've still got the same thoughts in my head. there's not been like this massive curtain lifted or anything. There's not been like these fireworks haven't shot off in the sky miraculously. You know, the heavens haven't opened up and spoken to me. I'm still just the same person. And oh look, now I've got an open wound down there that's starting to become septic, and I can smell fecal matter all the time from coming from it because my body isn't supposed to actually look like this, and humans haven't got the ability to actually do this properly to another person. And now my body's starting to reject what's been done, and I'm horrifically scarred all over. And that's the reality of it, and it's tragic. And I feel really bad for those people because you can't go back either because they've lopped off bits and thrown them away. In its referral to the agency, the trust said it was not certain whether she would continue to share those views with young people. Oh, sorry, I've missed a bit here. Investigating into conduct. The Aquinas Church of England Education Trust, which runs the school, referred Miss Ledger to the Teaching Regulation Agency, the state regulator for teachers, which has the power to ban them from the profession. In its referral to the agency, the trust said it was not certain whether she would continue to share those views with young people. She absolutely should share those views with young people, not just her, but all teachers should. Maybe not tell them it as a fact, but tell them it as an alternative point of view. Let kids aren't as stupid as people actually think. Don't get me wrong, they can be quite thick at times, kids. I was one, so I'm fully aware of that. And I was around kids when I was a kid, you know, but they're not stupid either. They absorb information, and how else are they supposed to learn unless you expose them to different ideas? You know, and they will make their own mind up sensibly, most of them. The TRA considers whether her conduct was contrary to fundamental British values in that it lacked tolerance to those with different beliefs. Well, so what? I don't think that's been fundamental British values in that it lacked tolerance to those with different. I don't think you do have to tolerate people with different beliefs. I genuinely don't think that's a British value at all. As somebody who is absolutely British, 100%, blood and soil British, I do not agree with that. And I think this thing that they're trying to create is so vapid, and this whole thing of British values, from what I've seen, it's a waste of time. You know, it's so empty and vapid, and it's trying to get everybody underneath the globalist umbrella of we're all just one people together, and we can all hold hands and sing "Kumbaya" together. You know, I know you might want to do female genital mutilation. I'll respect that, but you know, as long as you respect me, like saying that girls should go to school, that's all okay. No. Some cultures are worse than others, and we shouldn't respect them. Same as some values and beliefs are sub what we should find acceptable. I just don't agree with that at all. Don't agree with it. The regulator ruled that her behaviour was not contrary to British values because it found her evidence of being tolerant of people from all backgrounds was genuine and sincere, it is understood. Miss Ledger argued that she had great compassion for LGBT people. However, she said that she could not, in good conscience, teach or say things I believe are contrary to my faith. Absolutely. Or even contrary, just to observable reality. You know, like that a 6'3" man with a beard bushier than mine and an Adam's apple like a fist is not a woman. No matter how many pills he takes to give himself breasts, he's still not a woman. You know, and he'll always be a man. You know, comments not contrary to British values. Yeah, well, some that's not contrary to British values is lying about things like a man becoming a woman. That's against British values, in my opinion. Lying and gaslighting people into believing your BS and feeding their delusions. That, in my opinion, goes against British values because it's not stiff upper lip, is it? Just deal. I know you think you're really mandy, old boy, but you're not. You're Derek. Just deal with it, old chap. Stiff upper lip and all that. What? Now let's drink some tea and play polo. That's British values. Dealing with your problems like a man. Being stoic. The regulator also considered the Department for Education's advice on the Equality Act 2010 for schools, which states that the legislation defines religion as being any religion and belief as being any religious or philosophical. What? The regulator also considered the Department for Education's advice of the Equality Act 2010 for schools, which states that legislation defines religion as being any religion and belief as being any religious or philosophical belief. That is so ridiculous. That's like saying Trans women are women. Trans women are women because they are. That is ludicrous wording. Absolutely ludicrous. It's understood that the TRA said that no evidence has been provided to show that alphabet was a philosophical belief. It's an ideological belief. It therefore found that Miss Ledger did not act against fundamental British values. No, she didn't. It's a political ideology. It's got a movement and everything and a flag. It gets representation in Parliament. There's laws based around it. It's a political ideology. However, it is understood to have ruled that she was guilty of serious misconduct over her comments. Her behaviour fell significantly short of the standards expected of the profession, and standards were breached, including having proper and professional regards for the ethos, policies, and practices of the school in which they teach. The TRA found Miss Ledger. I mean, that's just it's like constructive dismissal. You know, it's they'll be pulling out nebulous conduct statements on what she's done, and it's like trying to punch the fog. You can't, because the word is in such a weird way as it could apply to anything, and they'll use it for whenever they can. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get going, and my time is about to run out. I'll leave it at that. If you've enjoyed that, please like, subscribe, put a comment below. Sorry for the video cutting short mid on it, but my phone just started flashing at me. All right, take care now. Thank you. Bye bye.